What's up, peeps? Julian Williams here with The Distance. Got a video for you guys. This is a post-fight video to Chad Dawson versus Bernard Hopkins 2. It ended in a majority decision in favor of Chad Dawson. Um, One judge had the draw, but just overall, man, Chad Dawson came out and did what he had to do. I actually predicted the fight to be a split decision in favor of Dawson. So, but like looking at the fight though, I'm just like I don't really understand how you could have a 114-114 fight, and if you did score at 114, then just let me know how you scored at 114-114 because I personally do not know how this fight could have been scored, even. But overall, going into the fight, man, Chad Dawson actually did something in this fight that we haven't seen done with Hopkins. And Dawson did well fighting at a very slow pace. If you look at a lot of the older Chad Dawson fights, like fights with Glenn Johnson and Antonio Tarver, two other light heavyweights who were in their 40s, he fought them at a faster pace. And he also used his height, he used his reach, and he threw a lot of jabs and threw a lot of combinations. And in this fight, he fought at a much slower pace. He fought in spurts. He didn't necessarily use his height as much to his advantage. He used his left hand. And Hopkins fights very well against left-handed fighters due to the fact that he puts a lot of weight into his right hand and leans so much into his right hand shot. And a lot of times with the southpaw versus orthodox fighter, of course, 90% of the time, especially with counter punchers, you're gonna have the clash of heads. And his head does clash with with southpaws. We saw it against Winky Wright. Winky Wright had that huge gash on his eye. And there's another fight scene with southpaw where the southpaw was cut as well. But just overall, cuts are going to be inevitable a lot of the time, especially in a Hopkins fight from time to time. But Chad Dawson did well, you know, making adjustments. In the early and also in spurts, he was throwing combinations in the early rounds. He seemed to be tentative and was somewhat fighting Hopkins' fight. A lot of people were thinking, including myself, that Hopkins was going to find a way to adjust, but it was Dawson that found a way to adjust later on in the fight. He started to throw the left hand. He started to throw the right hook on the inside. I thought that he was going to do a little bit more of the Virgil Hunter thing and just continue to stick jabs out there and utilize his movement. But Chad did a very good job of just being the ring general. He was very patient. He wasn't too overzealous in there, and just overall, I just think controlled the fight. I think a lot of the control of the fight was from Chad Dawson, but Bernard was kind of dictating his pace a little bit because it was like what Dawson did was very seemed to be very passive to what Hopkins was doing, but he found a way to negate it. But also Hopkins was somewhat neutralizing Dawson. He was finding ways to neutralize him. But at the same time, Dawson was the one controlling the pace, while he was landing first, he was throwing first, and he was ending the exchanges. If you look closely at it, he's the one getting the shots off first. And he was being countered from time to time. He had two cuts above both of his eyes, and he continued fighting. He continued fighting. He continued, setting the pace, and found a little bit of rhythm going into the fight. He became comfortable, and that's what won him the fight. The fact that he was comfortable, he worked patient. He worked very patiently behind the jab. He threw combinations of spurts and made adjustments by throwing the left hand and creating space for that left hand, and creating the shot and creating the angle, and even throwing the left uppercut from time to time, which I've mentioned in other videos that he does set up very well. So overall, good fight for Chad Dawson. Pretty much, he did call out Andre Ward after this bout. I don't think Ward's gonna fight Dawson. But just overall, there are a lot of good fights for Dawson. I think that he needs to avenge the loss of Jean Pascal before facing the Andre Ward. But best believe an Andre Ward Chad Dawson fight would be great for boxing. But it is what it is. I don't think it will happen anytime in the very near future. But anyway, peeps, that was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.